Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Today is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And for today's reading lesson, we are going to compare and contrast two different stories, or two different fairy tales rather, but it's basically the same fairy tale. So it's two different versions of Cinderella that we're going to take a look at today. Yes, last week I read you the more traditional Cinderella, and today I'm going to read you a different Cinderella, and then you are going to complete a compare and contrast worksheet on it, and then you're going to tell me which book that you liked better and why, okay? So without further ado, I am going to show you today's Cinderella. Hi. Make this bigger. This one's called Cinderella's Big Foot. Once upon a time, Cinderella lived with two evil stepsisters. They made her wear rags and clean the kitchen all day long. "Scrub those pots," said one stepsister. "Clean up this mess," ordered the other. One day, a gold invitation to the royal ball arrived. "Cinderella, you will stay here and clean while we meet the prince," laughed the evil stepsisters. "I wish I could go to the ball," sobbed Cinderella. Suddenly, a woman with wings appeared in a puff of smoke. "I'm your fairy godmother." "Poor Cinderella, you will go to the ball," she said kindly. She tapped her wand 3 times. Cinderella's dirty rags became beautiful white dress. Her shoes sparkled with diamonds. Cinderella rushed off to the ball without thanking her fairy godmother. She had one thing on her mind: the prince. "The prince will fall in love with me because I am so beautiful," boasted Cinderella. All the girls wanted to meet the prince. Cinderella pushed them aside. "He's mine!" she yelled. The handsome prince saw Cinderella stomp on one girl's toes and pull another girl's hair. But the prince fell in love with her anyway. She didn't let anyone else near him. They danced together all night. Then, as the clock struck midnight, Cinderella's lovely white dress turned back into dirty rags. She ran away in shame. She was in such a hurry that one of her shoes fell off as she ran. The next day, there was a loud knock at Cinderella's door. It was the prince. "My true love lost her shoe," he declared. "I will marry the girl whose foot it fits." "Get out of my way," said Cinderella, pushing past her stepsisters. She moved her tiny foot toward the tiny shoe. Suddenly, there was a bang and a big puff of smoke. The fairy godmother was back. "Cinderella," she said, "you are just as mean as your stepsisters. You don't deserve to marry the prince." The fairy godmother tapped her magic wand 3 times. Cinderella's foot grew and grew and grew. Now her foot was too big for the shoe. "You've gotten too big for your boots," laughed her stepsisters. "Oh, fairy godmother, I know I've been bad," wept Cinderella. "If you shrink my foot back, I'll never be horrible again." "Very well," the fairy godmother replied, "if you promise to be kind even to your stepsisters." A week later, there was a royal wedding. Cinderella kept her word. She invited her stepsisters and even let them be her bridesmaids. But they were just as rude and horrible as before. The end. Close at that. So today what we're going to do now is, let me get this nice and large for you. We are going to compare and contrast that original version of Cinderella that I read last week with this version of Cinderella that I just read to you. And just like you did last week, you filled in the fairy tale common story element chart. You're going to do the same thing here. It's a little bit different, so pay close attention. Today you are going to add the title of both books. So we have Cinderella and her big foot, and then just regular Cinderella. Who's the good character in each book? Who's the evil character in each book? What was the magical element in each book? What examples of 3s or 7 were in each book? Where did it take place? What was the problem? And then what was the solution? And then down here, you're going to tell us which story was your favorite. And then over here, why? What did you like best about your favorite of those 2 stories? If you don't remember the first Cinderella, you can go back on Epic and reread it. Also, if you would like, if you have another version of Cinderella at your house, or you want to pick another version of Cinderella that's on Epic, there are many of them, please feel free to do that, and you can compare and contrast that. The main idea here is that we want you to read 2 versions of the same fairy tale, whether it's 2 versions of Cinderella, 2 versions of Snow White. You can pick and choose, but just make sure it's 2 of the same fairy tale. Like I talked to you last week when I introduced fairy tales, I told you that fairy tales were oral stories that were passed down. And so as they were passed down and passed on and traveled the world orally, many characters and elements changed in those stories. So there are a ton of different stories that are similar but very different. Like I said, all based on the story of Cinderella, like today, but based on the different country that it was told in and it was shared in, there are certain elements that have changed. So your job today is to look for those changes and look for those similarities. If you need any help, you know where to find us. Have a fantastic day and enjoy your Monday. Bye, guys.